You're listening to All My Friends Are Ghosts, a long-form narrative drama told in 14 parts. Episode 2, The Mother. After supper, the table is cleared and the dining room empties, save the two of them. He sits in a wicker chair, smoking, across the table from her, nursing a Canadian whiskey on the rocks. The room is small and lined in bookshelves filled with decorative liquor bottles and a few cookbooks. A glass pistol full of tequila, a tin soldier full of scotch, several heart-shaped bottles of sherry with silver-topped ornamental corks. His yellowish silk button-up is opened, exposing the deep, plunging neckline of his undershirt. His hair is a robust golden brown that her sons will never know. Her hands were folded in her lap. She'd barely picked at her plate during supper. Once the others had left, she felt gripped by an intense hunger, but she still sat there, perhaps in contemplation of their return.
I just don't know what to do anymore, Daddy.
What do you mean, girl?
She looked up at him, read the lines on that storied face, smoke hanging low and still over them both.
I grew up. I got married. We're on our own now. New place, new state. I just don't know what to do next is all.
Well, usually children would enter into the equation. But I'm sure, knowing you, there's an entire world of decision-making to be mulled over before that happens. You've been married near 3 years now.
It's not that, Daddy. We've decided to wait. We decided to take the time to be with each other, see the world, and get to know each other.
Get to know each other? Hell. Y'all met in 68, married in 68. It didn't seem then or now like either of you was too keen on taking the time to get to know each other.
She let her head fall as he spoke, her flat-ironed hair hiding her face, lap fidgeting with her hands together as he said his piece.
It didn't seem to none of us that you was too concerned with what any of us thought, but you were always that way, even when you were a little girl. Out of all you kids, you gave your mother and me the most trouble.
Well, now, Daddy, that's not fair.
Well, darling, fair ain't got much to do with it. And I'm sorry if you don't want to hear it, but your brothers and their problems are their own kind of trouble. But you yourself just naturally took us to greater highs and greater lows than any of those 5 others could have ever purposefully done.
He took another drag from his cigarette and thumbed the half-inch-long ash in the glass ashtray.
It was just in you. You were just different from them, and you always will be. Fair got nothing to do with it. Just is.
Daddy, I don't feel anything.
She pushed her hair aside, looked up at him, pleading.
Doll, you have these moments. Every marriage has them. There's just times
No,
in
Daddy.
marriage.
I don't feel anything. I mean, in my life. I mean, at my core, in every moment, I feel nothing.
They studied each other, connected, disconnected.
I'm sitting here right now at this table and I'm feeling nothing.
The old man felt he saw a very specific sadness in her face, heard the pain in her voice, felt the smoky air thicken with her emotions, but he wanted to take her at her word.
Why didn't you tell me about this, Daddy?
He fumbled around, pulling another cigarette out of the pack, pulled a match from the small metal container next to the ashtray, struck it, and watched it burn. They both watched it burn.
I never told you about that because you can't tell someone what that is, darling.
He dropped the spent match into the ashtray, shifted his chair to the head of the table to be closer to her, and laid his arms out over the placemat to her side.
That's not something any other person can tell you about. There's not a man on this earth who can describe such a thing well enough for you or anyone else who's never experienced it. I could have tried, sure. But then where's your journey start?
When he reached out to her, both of her hands wrapped around his, her trim nails digging into him as she began to sob.
Even if I could have told you in a way you would have understood, where does that leave you in your learning?
Now he was the one pleading. It mattered, almost as if it were his final act. He thought it might not help her now, but it would help her someday.
Listen, honey, listen.
As he spoke, he squeezed her hands and she began to calm, to resign herself. Soon she remembered her stillness. She remembered her emptiness.
Listen, there are some things you can't give to anyone else, no matter how much you wish you could. Not even as a parent. You just try your best to be what you feel like those kids need. You can't do no more. You're young. I know you don't think you are, but you're young. Hell, you're our next to youngest. Now I plan to be here until you and that boy out there bring me some grandbabies to spoil well into their teens. Listen, you'll have those grandbabies, and knowing you, they'll be all you live for. You'll do all you do to make them happy. Your whole life will be those babies, and their whole life will be you. But someday will come when those babies get grown, and they'll try and find their own way, and you might be sitting there feeling just like you are now. Or not feeling like you're not feeling, whatever you want to say. You'll see them pulling away, and you won't know what to do other than just let their lives move on without you having your hand in it. You'll see it all clear as day. And I hope to God you'll remember this time you're going through and this talk we're having, and you'll just let them be whoever they're going to be instead of trying to fight them leaving your control.
He dragged long and deep from the cigarette, leaned forward, and snubbed out the butt in the ashtray in front of them. She sat, nodding slowly, her face drying, her mind swimming. She felt the veneer of catharsis begin to settle over her. They were no longer touching, but the warmth of his hands still remained in hers, and she clasped them together to remember it longer. She took a breath and gathered her thoughts.
Daddy?
Her husband and her brothers suddenly filled the room with laughter, loud talk, and the exuberant energy with which young men are known to fill rooms. She startled and jumped slightly before letting her hair fall back over her eyes. She righted herself and wiped her face again so no one would notice her discomfort. The man she loved kissed the top of her head and called her babe, and as the group of them passed through the living room, she sat perfectly still, looking straight ahead into the world-weary, bloodshot eyes of the man she called Daddy. Her first summer in Texas was all fireflies and creek beds, and sipping sun tea on the back porch as the last light of day sank into the green belt of live oak that pulsated with the rhythmic, breath-like vibration of 10,000 cicadas. The family would spend days at the dam in the Guadalupe River at the end of the neighborhood, swimming and walking the dry, sun-whitened bedrock where ancient creatures had left footprints, and where the towering bald cypress trees gently twisted in the hot breeze. Late in the season, they drove to San Antonio to attend the Texas Folklife Festival, and the boys slept on the floorboards of the pickup at their parents' feet on the drive home, lulled to sleep below the humming orange glow of the FM dial. In September, the boys started school again, and through the end of October and beginning of November, the family spread several blue tarps over the grass below the 2 pecan trees in the front yard, and harvested the nuts for roasting and pie making. The family made Halloween costumes out of old clothes and a $3 grease paint kit from the Super S Market, and she took the boys trick-or-treating. The day before Thanksgiving, she dragged 2 wicker chairs to the back porch, wrapped the boys in bed sheets from the neck down, and cut their hair with kitchen shears. Her youngest begged her for a green mohawk, and she politely refused. When asked over the years, she'd say she'd left the city for fear of her children never knowing what it was like to stand in an empty field and hear a single-engine plane passing overhead. She'd left the city for fear of having to explain what cannot be explained, but only experienced. She left the city for fear of them never knowing what it was like to be alone, truly alone. She knew the value of common sense, the value of self-reliance, of not having it all handed to you. On that first Christmas morning, the boys woke to find the living room overflowing with glistening boxes, each bowed with sparkling ribbon, and the tree the family had all decorated together, newly adorned with a red velvet sash and silver and gold tinsel. Through that hypnotic enchantment, they saw the glow of the television, and as they rounded the sofa, they found their parents bag-eyed, asleep in front of the unwrapped Nintendo Entertainment System, controllers still in their hands. A similar ritual will be repeated several times by the entire family when, in January, 14 inches of snow fell in a freak storm and the town shut down completely. The boys ventured out into the backyard in their several pairs of socks and several pairs of pants, and clambered through the frozen thicket of monkey grass and elephant ear toward the tree line. The freeze had come so quickly, there were all manner of insects and small reptiles staged around the yard in frigid tableaus, trapped in time. The night of their first school day after Christmas break, their parents took them to a restaurant near their new neighborhood called Burger Island, where they ate cheeseburgers and drank chocolate malts under towering black and white murals of Laurel and Hardy and Marilyn Monroe and Charlie Chaplin. As she watched the boys crack each other up with stories about their day, she realized it was the first time she'd felt at home since the move. In early February, the boys were helping her unload the groceries when she noticed Simon unwrapping a piece of butterscotch candy and asked him where he'd gotten it. The boy shrank sheepishly, and when she pressed him, he admitted he'd taken the candy without paying for it. Peter began taunting his brother over the trouble he knew was coming, but his playful scorn ended when she loaded the three of them back into the station wagon, drove back to the Super S Market, and made Simon walk into the store, pay for the piece of candy, and apologize to the cashier. She told him that there would never be a substitute for having earned something for yourself. She told him that the day would never come when she would let him ask less of himself than she had asked of him. She knew the value of common sense, the value of self-reliance, of not having it all handed to you.
Just stop!
The boys were slap-fighting one another,
Stop!
screaming in an indecipherable tantrum from their car seats as she flailed her right arm behind herself, trying to break them apart. The station wagon swerved and surged, and the boys raged on as she pleaded.
I'm pulling over. You don't want me to pull over.
She never needed to mention their father. No threats of what would happen when he heard of their misbehavior. As far as those boys were concerned, she was the last and final word. The car came to a stop at a red light, and the longer it sat there, the boys became more worried about what she might say or do. She was quiet, sitting still, her head tilted downward. She started shaking her head side to side and fussing with the ignition.
Mom? Mom, why are we stopped?
No!
Mom, we stopped fighting. We're not gonna fight anymore.
Yeah, Mom! Don't be mad anymore, Mom!
No, boys. There's something wrong with the car. I think we're out of gas.
No, Mom. Ugh.
Just as she whipped around in her seat, gripping a hand on a knee of each boy to shush them, the driver behind them began honking his horn. Simon looked at her, wide-eyed and frightened. Even at that age, the boy's inner turmoil simmered, giving him an all but constant nervousness. She turned forward and tried again to start the car, pumping the gas and turning the ignition over and over as a line of vehicles grew behind them.
Mom, what's going on? We're gonna be late for the birthday party. Mom!
Peter was concerned with schedules, even then. Schedules, systems, rules, order. He kept his room so precisely sorted, it secretly unnerved even his mother. Within a week of moving to Texas, the other kids in Peter's class had begun calling him the policeman.
I guess we're just going to be late, Peter. You'll survive, I promise.
When she opened the door and flung the seatbelt away from her body, the early evening sunlight flared across the windshield and into the eyes of the boys in the back seat.
Where you going, Mommy?
She stood, squared her shoulders off, purposeful, resolute, moving with fierce intention toward the rear of the car.
Mom? Mom, what are you doing?
She walked briskly, focused. The driver behind them only stopped honking as she passed the rear of the station wagon, and the look on his face said he had no idea what she wanted when she aggressively knuckled his driver's side window. He rolled down the window and cocked his head casually toward her.
Hey, honey, look here. You can't just stop your car.
Listen, I wonder, would you mind going to see if you can get my car started, and I'll stay back here and honk your horn for you? Sound good?
What?
When Simon was in 4th grade, she spent 3 days holding him and rocking him and cooing in his ear to calm the nerves the fever had brought. He was sick with strep throat to the very point of hallucination, and she stayed up all night long trying to ease him into sleep. But every time he closed his eyes, he would see nightmarish things. And every time he opened them again, he would feel the house shake and hear wild sounds in the air. And he thought they were going to be killed, but she just kept holding him and singing lightly in his ear through it all. Peter had dreams of being a major league pitcher, and she spent her weekends driving him out to baseball clinics and day camps in Temple and Austin and Waco. All summer, she drove the highways and back roads to find him the best training, and in time, he became a very accomplished player. Simon spent his weekends watching cartoons and professional wrestling, and she made him fried Spam sandwiches on Roman meal wheat bread with mayo. And he would build large mazes with his wooden blocks and run glass marbles through them for hours. And he felt no less supported in his endeavors of leisure than Peter in his endeavors of sport. When Simon was in the 5th grade, she woke early and assembled lush, overflowing, fluorescent Easter baskets for the last time, until Peter's first child was born 16 years later. The boys were roused by a slight tapping on their bedroom doors, and when they stepped out, they each tried to hide their childlike excitement in their own way, because they were just at that age. The 3 of them took the baskets of chocolates and toys and stuffed animals, and a basket of dyed eggs, and went to a park and took turns hiding the eggs in the early morning to wet grass and shrubs. And when they asked about their father, she'd say something to make them laugh, and they would go back to their games. She'd gotten each of them stuffed rabbits that convulsed violently and gyrated and sang songs in ridiculous high-pitched voices that the 3 of them would laughingly bring up for years to come. Both of her boys would often think back on times like that and be reminded of her being there for them when no one else was.
Once you've lived in enough towns or held enough jobs, you get bored of meeting new people and starting the whole friendship process over again. You might start some new job or move into a new place with whatever bold-faced, open-minded enthusiasm you can muster, thinking your new neighbor is going to be some insanely interesting, gorgeous genius. But in the end, they're always yet another version of whoever you just bailed on. You can always see some old motive in a new pair of twinkling eyes. Some flash of what intrigued you about the last whoever in this new whoever. But focusing on the insincerity of that dim-witted hopefulness can only comfort you briefly. Just enough to steal maybe a few drunken moments of superiority while rummaging through hypothetical scenarios and wholly imagined conversations in your lonesome little room at night. But that pseudo-nostalgic recognition can offer just enough in the way of stolen smiles and fluttery heart moments to kind of suck you in if you let it. I guess sometimes it's just easier to stop caring and half-heartedly latch on to the first people who come along, whether it really means anything or not. You talk to someone more than 3 times and you're almost guaranteed to have already heard the bulk of what they will say to you over the next 9 to 12 months. All the inside jokes you shared with other friends in the past, the ones that really meant something, like the ones you thought were the signs of an amazing connection when you were a kid, they just start flooding back to you through different faces. Same personality, different bones and meat and skin. You begin to realize that every human on this planet has probably lived some part of their life exactly how you did, if only for a moment. The more people you meet, the less inclined you feel to buy into any of this sanctity of life nonsense the Christians try to sell you on to get you to vote against your own interests. You learn you don't like people. You learn you can't trust people. You learn that it's better to be alone than it is to chase the dream of ever getting along with another human being in a way that doesn't kill the both of you. You learn there's not a single person on this earth whose presence in your life will make up for what you're missing inside. You learn all that, and still you find yourself waking up with that sickeningly human need for companionship just burning in your gut. It's ridiculous. Walking into the grocery store alone, really alone, knowing you're buying groceries for only yourself and that no one else will be there when the milk runs out. No one is going to be there. It can be a bit too much at times. Something that simple, something so stupidly simple can just be a bit too much sometimes. As I approach the supermarket, I take my headphones out and start to wind them around my hand, and I hear the screeching of a hawk overhead. When I look up, there is no hawk, only a loudspeaker hidden behind the big plastic sign that crowns the store, and it's announcing in the language of birds that it's gonna eat you alive. The big plastic sign itself was at once a towering monument to consumerism with its 700,000-foot high letters screaming in the language of need for us to buy things. But now it's just become another toilet for crows, and that loudspeaker just squawks, and nobody really seems to notice it anymore. Pork sausage, beer, enough TV dinners for 5 days. Only they'll last 3.5 weeks because I can't stand eating them. Lunch meat, bread, pickles. No one is going to eat any of this food. Why do things come in such huge quantities? I pay for my things and head for the exit, noticing one of those big plastic alarm things positioned on either side of the automatic doors. An old man is coming in as I reach the threshold, and I lock eyes with him for a split second, and before I even think about it, I'm asking him why he thinks the store has those big plastic towers on either side of the entrance. I can tell by the fright in his eyes. His first thought is that I'm just another nutcase in the blur of nutcases he's had to navigate just to walk to the store, but for whatever reason, he stands there, gestures to his left, and asks if I mean the alarms. I nod, smilingly. Then he repeats that they're alarms, and so I hold up a six-pack and ask him if he really thinks they've rigged each can of beer to set off the alarm. All my microwave dinners, my loaf of bread. I ask him if he thinks those big plastic towers are screaming for us to buy things, or screaming that we're going to be eaten alive.
All My Friends Are Ghosts is written and directed by Blake Cormier. Starring Alexis Ward as the mother, Dave Bair as the grandfather, and Lauren Seal as the narrator. With additional voices by Mercury Ward, Elliott Cormier, and Aidan Connor. Original music and sound design by Blake Cormier. More information about the production and all songs used in the show can be found at adoredbymillions.com.